I'm PapaKenn, and welcome to episode 6 of Discovering Steven Universe. Cat fingers! You know what? I think this is going to be the first episode where I just completely abandon my usual format, because, I honestly have nothing at all negative to say about this episode. Like, at all. The closest that might come to a negative is that, the mayor appearing at the very beginning of the episode seemed kind of pointless, but other than that, I mean, the episode was great. It was really, really good. And all stemming from the idea that Steven wants to be able to learn how to change his form or to shapeshift like Amethyst can. And the way that Amethyst did the shapeshifting in this episode was hilarious, especially when she shapeshifted into Steven and freaked out Greg. And when she shifted into a likeness of Pearl and kept slapping her butt. It was so very hilarious. The episode, it was one of those that that episode in particular, I could watch over and over again and probably never get tired of it, or at least not for a long time, and just laugh every time. And one of the things that really solidified it for me as just such a great episode for me is that in Fribo, I was talking about how I really enjoyed how they managed to pull in these horror elements into a kid's show, and also this very serious, deep subject that came out of the mouth of a child, which we actually see that character Petey again in this episode. But what really made me love this episode, now again, I loved it. I was laughing pretty much throughout the entire episode, especially when we get to the point where Steven tries to make the cat fingers go away, and then all of a sudden, like, more cats start appearing. Like, a cat appears on his head, I think, and then his shoulder, and then his hand, like his entire hand turns into a cat. And I was legitimately cracking up at that point. Like, I actually had to rewind so I make sure I didn't miss anything. But then we get to the scene with Greg Universe, with his dad. And, like, at first it still seems kind of silly. It's like, spraying the blob of cats, and of course it's Steven. But then just they pull this complete 180, and they go from being funny to just all of a sudden just this really emotional segment where Greg is not just on the verge of tears, but he's actually crying, like worried that he's going to lose his son. And Steven is terrified. Like, he actually is crying. He's terrified because he is unable to control what's going on at all. He cannot stop it. And it's not until he has the sudden realization that the water can help, or hopefully, he didn't even know for sure, but that the water might be able to help or make them go away, that, everything just seems lost for him. And just the transition that they pulled there, that transition from making me have legitimate belly laughs to all of a sudden being like, oh wow, what's going to happen? Now, on one hand, it's kind of like with me being behind on Doctor Who, me being behind on Steven Universe. It's kind of obvious they're not going to off the main character, but at the same time, I feel like this show is one of those that over time, like, certain elements are going to be brought back, like certain, I say like a lot, certain plot elements. Like, what happens here, that trauma that Steven went through, who's to say that may not prevent him from ever wanting to do any shape-shifting ever again? Again, that's just sort of like an idea that comes to mind for me. But this seems like the kind of show that would make what happens here have consequences down the line. I don't know when or if that will actually happen, but, it's just, everything that I've understood of this show so far really does give me that impression. So yeah, it goes without saying, I loved this episode. I really did. Now, admittedly, no quotes in particular come to mind, no specific lines. But if I were to pick a quote of the episode, it would have to be the cat puns at the end of the episode. Some people hate puns, some people find them absolutely cringeworthy, and so do I. But I love puns. I love them so much. And just the nonchalant way in which Steven delivers them, and then the way it annoys the crystal gems, just works so well. So yes, the puns were the quotes of the episode for me. There was just so much to love in this episode that, again, I just don't have anything negative to say about it, really. Now, those of you that are further into the show, that have watched more of the show, you may have some annoyances that you would like to voice. So as always, please do leave your favorite parts about this episode and your annoyances and any quotes that might come to mind down in the comments down below. And until next time, when I will be doing my Discovering Steven universe for, I believe it is Bubble Buddies. I think that's the right title. But until then, everyone, I'm PapaKenn. Thank you very much for joining me for episode 6 of Discovering Steven Universe. I hope you're enjoying it so far. I hope you're enjoying the show so far, if you're kind of going along with me. But yeah, until next time, everyone. I still haven't worked out an ending for these. Anyway, Alonzi!